Chapter 841, Fang Yuan's Public Provocation. Seemingly hearing Firesmith Dragon Chief's inner voice, Fang Yuan continued to ridicule with even more intensity. Good, this gaze, this mood, this rage, only like this can you bring out all your strength to fight me. Only such an opponent can make me feel some interest. Remember, you must use all your strength, otherwise you will be Myriad Dragon Doc's disgrace. Ha ha ha. Fang Yuan spoke with such arrogance while pointing at Firesmith Dragon Chief. At once, all the Gu masters were speechless. Wasn't this way too arrogant? Myriad Dragon Doc's members gritted their teeth. They were arrogant, but Fang Yuan was even more arrogant. Firesmith Dragon Chief trembled in anger, staring at Fang Yuan with such fury that flames seemed to spout out. Unlike the imagination of outsiders, Fang Yuan had a bold demeanor on the surface, but inwardly, he was extremely vigilant. Differing from the information in the outside world, this Firesmith Dragon Chief's main cultivation is actually not refinement path but fire path. Back when he was at Myriad Dragon Doc, he was a refinement path Gu master. And he was also indeed thrown out of the sect, but because of a fortuitous encounter, he obtained a certain Fire Path Gu Immortal's inheritance. After he became a Fire Path Gu Immortal, he tried to enter Myriad Dragon Doc again. Myriad Dragon Doc naturally would not let go of a Gu Immortal and had actually already secretly taken him in. It was just that it happened to be time for the Refinement Path Convention, and seeing his Refinement Path attainment was Grandmaster level, they hurriedly made him join the competition to try to seize the top spot and get more benefits for the sect. This Firesmith Dragon Chief's refinement path attainment level is above mine. In my previous life, he was ranked at second of this convention. A refinement path grandmaster cannot be taken lightly. Especially during the Gu refinement in the 10th round, he impressively suppressed 3 quasi-grandmasters on the spot. Such an enemy must be beaten down early. If I let go of this chance, according to my previous life's memories, there will be almost no chance of suppressing him. Firesmith Dragon Chief was a Gu immortal, but he did not disclose it, instead disguising himself as a mortal. He naturally could not conceal his Gu immortal cultivation from other Gu immortals, but it was okay for them to know it, no one would expose this. Maintaining their mysteriousness helped Gu immortals to maintain their dominion. There was also another reason. By any chance, if they lost to a mortal in the Refinement Path Convention, that would be too disgraceful. Why would Gu immortals lose to mortals? There were actually many cases of mortals defeating Gu immortals in the Refinement Path Convention. Gu refinement was not like fighting or killing, it was purely technical. The most important reason was that immortal Gu were unique and were extremely difficult to successfully refine. Without immortal Gu as a benchmark, the competition between Gu immortals and mortals depended on refining mortal Gu. Everyone could refine mortal Gu, and to a great extent, it could not embody the gap between immortal and mortal. Thus, normally speaking, all Gu immortals would hide their identities when participating in the Refinement Path Convention. Start. Fang Yuan urged the demon-expelling sex elder. Begin quickly. Firesmith Dragon Chief shouted. He was already impatient to crush this rampant Fang Yuan. Demon-expelling sex elder endured the pressure from the two, and said firmly with gritted teeth, "It is not yet time, the competition cannot be started. There are still 3 breaths of time left, 3, 2, 1, okay, activate the isolation Gu formation, close the entrance of the venue, release the task." In the previous 7 rounds of the Refinement Path Convention, because of too many participants, they could only let the participants take the test in turns. Now, at the 8th round, the number of participants had greatly reduced. Each test venue only held the competition once. The Gu masters who missed this chance would be regarded as voluntarily giving up. The Gu worms that contained the tasks were also very specific. This information path rank 5 mortal Gu was a method of heavenly court, and had extraordinary ability in preserving secrets. The tasks were not stored inside, but controlled by heavenly court. The instant the competition was about to begin, the true tasks would be transmitted. Everyone, inside and outside the stage, went quiet when the task was released. They were holding their breaths as they fixed their gazes on the task. It was so quiet that even a pin dropping could be heard. The 8th task, refine a keep silent Gu, a rank 5 sound path Gu worm. The participant who successfully refines it first will be the winner and can advance to the next round. The remaining Gu masters will be eliminated. The materials provided were, Immortal Soul Grass, Worry Stones, a rank 4 Apathy Gu, 6 rank 3 Muted Mouth Gu, 2 rank 4 Sinking Gu, and the test did not allow the use of other materials. The Gu recipes provided were, 6 different Keep Silent Gu recipes, 3 different Apathy Gu recipes and 1 Collusion Gu recipe. Everyone was frowning. Discover EW chapters at novelby.co. The difficulty of this task could be considered about 10 times higher than the 7th round. Not only were there 10 different Gu recipes, it also demanded a discerning eye, so the Gu master could choose those most suitable for themselves. Moreover, the supplied materials were limited and did not allow the Gu master to use materials they brought. In addition, these materials could not satisfy the requirements of any one Gu recipe. This meant that the Gu masters would need to reverse refine Apathy Gu, Muted Mouth Gu or Sinking Gu to obtain more refinement materials. They would have to make use of these materials to finally refine the rank 5 sound path Keep Silent Gu. Another method was for the participating Gu masters to use wisdom path methods to sum up these Gu recipes and improve them, deducing a Gu recipe that met the conditions using the supplied materials as the base. However, between these two methods, the first one was naturally the most worthwhile and effective. The second method required extremely high wisdom path attainment, and by this stage, it was rare to see Gu masters who also had deep wisdom path attainment. More importantly, this test took time into consideration. Only the first one to refine the Gu successfully could be the winner, while the rest were eliminated. The mental pressure was high. And during the final steps, it was likely for there to be those who could not endure the mental pressure, making a mistake and failing. Firesmith Dragon Chief almost coughed out blood when he saw the task. What kind of shitty task was this? Firesmith Dragon Chief almost cursed out loud. He was actually a Fire Path Gu Immortal, and was most proficient in refining Fire Path Gu worms. This Sound Path Gu worm clearly did not fall within his proficiency range. Moreover, several of the crucial refinement materials could not be handled with fire refinement techniques. This was awkward. Fong Yuan had rampantly asked Firesmith Dragon Chief to use his strongest Gu refinement killer move, Mad Deity's Blazing Flames. Firesmith Dragon Chief was furious and had also planned to use this killer move to completely humiliate Fong Yuan. However, with such a task, what would Firesmith Dragon Chief use Mad Deity's Blazing Flames for? Using the fire to burn air. This task was extremely at odds with Firesmith Dragon Chief. Relatively speaking, out of his entire Gu refinement attainment, he could only display 80%. Even if he was a Gu Immortal, they also had areas where they were proficient in and those that they were not. This task just happened to be an aspect which Firesmith Dragon Chief was most unskilled in. Naturally, Refinement Path Grandmaster attainment was not just for show. Firesmith Dragon Chief could absolutely succeed in refining the Gu. However, the key thing was the appearance of Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan's true skills were enough to threaten Firesmith Dragon Chief. Among experts of similar levels, just a slight decrease in capability could determine the winner and the loser, let alone when Firesmith Dragon Chief was weakened by a whole 20%. This guy chose such great timing, his luck is seriously too good. No, I must defeat him. Firesmith Dragon Chief swore to himself, and glanced at Fong Yuan. However, at the next moment, his eyeballs almost popped out. Fong Yuan had already started refining. How was it possible? How could he start so fast? The supplied Gu recipes and materials could not be matched together. Gu masters had to reverse refine Gu worms to create materials, or sum up the Gu recipes and deduce a new one. In short, refining rank 5 keeps silent Gu at the end. Thus, this required the Gu master to think deeply, making deductions constantly in their mind, and consider the probabilities of orthodox refining and reverse refining, from there, combining many ideas to make the most concise Gu refinement plan. This thought process was extremely important. The ideas from the thoughts needed to have low risks. If the risks were high, there could be many failures, resulting in materials being wasted and not leaving enough for the Gu refinement, and with the condition of not being able to use one's own materials, they could only admit defeat. While seeking low risk, they also needed to consume the least amount of time. If you consumed too much time, someone else might have already finished, and even if you succeeded in refining, you would be eliminated. Demanding low risk and also low time consumption, this was quite difficult. They would require meticulous thinking, constant comparisons and arrangements, and then choosing the best plan out of them all. Even though Firesmith Dragon Chief was a grandmaster in refinement path, he estimated he would also need about 8 minutes of time. However, this Fang Yuan, how could he start refining Gu at the very start? Is there a mistake? He really has such confidence. Foolish, a workman must sharpen his tools if he is to work well. The correct way is to calm down and think. The participating Gu masters glanced at Fang Yuan a few times before concentrating on thinking. Fang Yuan had the lead and was progressing extremely quickly. Other Gu masters had not even begun refining, only he had started. This naturally led to most of the spectators gazing at him. Exclamations of praise sounded out repeatedly. Such dazzling methods. Skilled, too skilled. It is simply like an instinct that has seeped into his bones. But is this okay? Haste makes waste. Fang Yuan naturally knew the logic of haste makes waste, but he knew the contents of this task. In Fang Yuan's previous life, after he became a Blood Path Gu immortal, he had once planned to participate in the Refinement Path Convention. The reason? Because even the demonic path could participate in the Refinement Path Convention, even wanted criminals could register their names overtly, and the righteous path would not arrest them. During that time, Fang Yuan did not have a single immortal Gu and was putting his efforts in gathering immortal materials to refine immortal Gu. The whole process was extremely arduous. In comparison, although he was an immortal zombie in this life, his financial circumstances were many times better. Fang Yuan had considered almost any possible method to gather immortal materials. He realized that the Refinement Path Convention was an opportunity to obtain large amounts of immortal materials. Chapter 842, Capturing Fang Zheng in Public. In Fang Yuan's previous life, by the time he placed his attention on the Refinement Path Convention, only a time period of over a decade had passed since the previous competition. To join the Refinement Path Convention, Fang Yuan had started preparing for it over 80 years in advance during his previous life. Every day, he spent some time practicing both day and night. During this process of practicing, Fang Yuan had the mindset of a youngster on earth facing a mountain of exam practice. He collected all of the different tasks throughout the years of competitions and practiced them laboriously, trying to discern the intention of the set task. He easily obtained all of the questions. There were people in Central Continent specialized in selling such information. These were easy to buy and sell. People seeking intelligence were simply everywhere. Thinking back to the times when he buried himself in practice, they were truly terrifying memories. But in actuality, Fang Yuan's Refinement Path Foundation was built during that time. Without that period, he would not reach his current Refinement Path Quasi-Grandmaster level. Thus, Fang Yuan not only remembered this competition's contents, he even knew the contents of many previous competitions, and even future competitions. With such a huge advantage, even if his refinement path attainment was inferior to Firesmith Dragon Chief, so what? Of course, this had a drawback. That was the butterfly effect. Since rebirth, Fang Yuan had altered the developments of many events. By burning a tree, it could cause a forest fire. Those skilled in swimming could drown, those skilled in riding could fall. By relying solely on his advantage, would Fang Yuan cause his own demise due to a change in the questions this time? This was entirely possible. But this was only a possibility. According to Fang Yuan's deductions, there was a very small probability of this happening. Fang Yuan decided to take a risk. And he succeeded. The contents did not change at all. Time continued to pass. The state of the intense Gu refinement competition was starting to become clear. Fang Yuan was in the lead. He was ahead of the second-place Firesmith Dragon Chief by a large margin. He was radiating with confidence. He refined Gu calmly, maintaining his huge lead and gradually fermenting despair in all of the competitors who were trying to catch up to him. Some Gu masters outside the stage started to see some deeper things. They praised, Fang Yuan has such quick wits. He did not think about it excessively, he designed this Gu refinement plan straight away. Incredible, his plan can not only keep a stable refinement speed, there are also fewer steps, allowing some mistakes. Even if he fails several times, the amount of materials are enough for him to try again. This was natural. The plan Fang Yuan used was the finalized perfect plan that countless Gu masters had come up with after many attempts in his previous life. There were more people gasping at Fang Yuan's Gu refinement techniques. Fang Yuan's Gu refinement techniques are truly incredible. He has so many of them, they are like his inborn skills. This is truly the result of immense practice and hard work. Now, he is refining Keep Silent Gu, involving many techniques that are not used normally, but he could actually use them so skillfully, it is hard to imagine his proficiency with normal techniques. This was natural. For this 8th round, Fang Yuan had made many preparations. In Hu Immortal Blessed Land, he had specially trained and refined Keep Silent Gu. He did the entire procedure over and over again, he practiced at least 200 times. Most notably, he is radiating with confidence from inside to outside. He believes in his success, as if the failure rate of the Gu refinement does not exist. This is the demeanor of a refinement path expert. The 3 olds of refinement path in history were just like this. That's right, looking at him refine Gu is like watching a dazzling performance. How great is his confidence, it is almost as if victory is kept in his pocket. His advantage is too great. Even if Fang Yuan fails the Gu refinement once or twice, he can still fight for first place with Firesmith Dragon Chief who is currently second. Under the gazes of countless people, Fang Yuan won this competition with a huge lead, without any surprises. Throughout the process, Fang Yuan unquestionably suppressed his competitors. Even Firesmith Dragon Chief lost to him by a great margin. Lord Firesmith Dragon Chief lost. He was eliminated like this. Spectators from Myriad Dragon Dock could not believe their eyes, they muttered dazedly. Fang Yuan, Fang Yuan. The people from Immortal Crane sect shouted, they cheered loudly. Only Fang Zheng was still sitting, he looked at his brother on the stage, he felt as if the black robe was shrouded over his heart. Perhaps in my lifetime, I'll never get a chance to take revenge. At this moment, Fang Zheng was extremely discouraged, he had no fighting spirit left in him. Even though he had deep hatred, Fang Zheng felt extremely weak in front of Fang Yuan, there was nothing he could do. Firesmith Dragon Chief was staring with wide-opened eyes, he gazed at Fang Yuan fixedly. He was unwilling to accept this. He did not even use his strongest killer move, this damned question restricted him. But he had to admit that Fang Yuan's mind was very sharp and fast. He actually designed such a flawless Gu refinement plan in such a short time. Is this Fang Yuan guy really an immortal zombie? Is there an error with the information? Immortal zombies were worse in thinking. The plan that Fang Yuan thought of made this Gu immortal, Firesmith Dragon Chief, feel extremely ashamed. At once, Firesmith Dragon Chief was suspicious of Fang Yuan's status as an immortal zombie. This round of the competition was over. Fang Yuan walked down slowly as he left the stage. He did not mock or humiliate Firesmith Dragon Chief, the latter couldn't help but relax slightly. Since he had won, there was no point in humiliating the other party. If he provoked Firesmith Dragon Chief and caused him to issue a challenge for a duel, Fang Yuan would only be inviting trouble for himself. Eventually, Firesmith Dragon Chief brought the people from Myriad Dragon Dock away, leaving with regret. Uptodat. DFR. M no/V/E/LB/I/N.CO/M. Fang Yuan obtained the victor's reward from Demon Expelling Sect. It was a number of immortal materials. There was a huge variety of them, but each of them had little quantity. Starting from the 8th round, the rewards were far more valuable than the first 7 rounds. There were immortal materials as well as immortal Gu recipes and others. If this was not the case, why would Fang Yuan treat the Central Continent Refinement Path Convention as a method to gather immortal materials in his previous life? Fang Yuan kept the immortal materials. He rejected Demon Expelling Sect's invitation to stay as a guest. He walked all the way to the exit. At the mountain gate, Immortal Crane Sect's group was waiting already. Lord Fang Yuan. Seeing Fang Yuan's arrival, Elder Yen Tang and another elder greeted him together. Fang Zheng was helpless. He was also an elder that had come along, but he was standing behind the two of them with an expressionless face. He did not even make any greetings. Fellow sect members, a good day to you all. Under the mask, Fang Yuan's warm voice could be heard. Immortal Crane Sect's group was very excited. From Fang Yuan's earlier arrogance, they felt that he would be hard to talk to. But now, he spoke with a kind and warm tone. They felt that Fang Yuan was truly different when facing his fellow sect members, compared to dealing with outsiders. Fang Yuan first looked at Elder Yen Tang. In the competition earlier, this elder had participated as well. Fang Yuan gave pointers casually. Your refinement path attainment is not low, but your plan had several flaws. This is how you should deal with them, for example, at the first step. Elder Yen Tang heard this and felt great admiration towards Fang Yuan. He thanked him profusely. The disciples behind him had shining eyes, filled with admiration and praise. Fang Yuan directed his gaze at Fang Zheng now. His voice turned cold as he said with a tone filled with disappointment, "My brother, what expression are you showing? Are you afraid I will scold you? Your performance is just as disappointing as always. You did not even pass the first round of the Refinement Path Convention. You simply make us lose face." The atmosphere turned heavy. The disciples were grimacing as they thought, Fang Yuan is such a fierce brother. Immortal Crane Sect's elders were stunned. It seemed that these two brothers had a rather cold relationship. Fang Zheng showed a look of hatred as he snorted, about to speak. Fang Yuan waved his hand. He was going to attack him in public. Fang Zheng was a rank 5 Gu master, at the peak of the mortal world. But he was an enslavement path Gu master. Most of his battle strength relied on crane groups, and he also did not expect Fang Yuan to attack him in public under everyone's sight without caring for the consequences. Fang Yuan's attack was premeditated. He not only used several mortal killer moves, among them was a wisdom path killer move from Dong Fang Chang Fan. While Immortal Crane Sect was staring blankly, Fang Yuan struck, immediately immobilizing Fang Zheng while at a distance. "Fang Zheng, you are too disappointing. At this stage, you are still moving around outside, why are you not settling down and cultivating? With such strength, you still want to attract attention outside, what is the point? Our parents are gone, as your brother, I hold the duty of a father to educate you. Since you are interested in refinement path, from today onwards, you will stay by my side, and I will impart to you my refinement path experience. You have to cultivate with all your heart, until I am satisfied. Fang Yuan chided. I don't want you to take care of me. I am an elder of Immortal Crane sect, I have grown up already. Fang Zheng screamed, he resembled a rebellious youth, refusing to accept discipline. But in fact, he was feeling an icy chill inside. He could not control himself, the words that he shouted were not words that he wanted to say. This was a wisdom path killer move from Dong Fang Chang Fan, it directly controlled Fang Zheng's mind and created fake thoughts that infiltrated Fang Zheng, causing him to act in accordance with these thoughts. This was similar to the way enslavement path Gu masters controlled beasts. But the difference was, enslavement path Gu masters usually only control beasts, they had simple thoughts. Controlling humans was much harder, they had complex minds. Fang Yuan was a rank 6 immortal zombie, against Fang Zheng, a rank 5 Gu master, he had to use and coordinate several killer moves at once to smoothly capture Fang Zheng. No. Save me, will anyone save me? Master, Master. Fang Zheng screamed inwardly. But there was no response from the spirit incubating flea. Fang Yuan had cut off Fang Zheng's connection to his aperture. Fang Zheng stared at Fang Yuan with a furious expression. He did not think that Fang Yuan would be so crazy, attacking him here. He was simply a lunatic, he had no reservations towards offending Immortal Crane sect. Chapter 843, Immortal Gu Change Form. Fang Yuan was in an alliance with Immortal Crane sect, how could he dare to attack a member of Immortal Crane sect? Fang Zheng knew more inside information than the other elders and disciples here. Earlier, when he Feng Yang and Song Yu attacked to Immortal Blessed Land and failed, because of the benefits of Daoist Gu, they reached an agreement. One of the clauses in the agreement was that members from both sides were not to attack each other. This was why Fang Zheng felt he was safe. Fang Yuan retracted his hand, Fang Zheng was immobilized, nor could he shout, he could not resist as a formless force pulled him up and sent him into Fang Yuan's hands. Immortal Crane Sex Group was looking on with dumbfounded expressions. Such terrifying strength. Elder Fang Zheng has rank 5 cultivation level, but he was captured without putting up any resistance. Even though Fang Zheng is an enslavement path Gu master, isn't that too absurd? Fang Yuan's unbelievable abilities struck fear in these people. Fang Zheng screamed internally, are you people watching a show? Quickly save me, he is no longer my brother, he killed our aunt and uncle, he killed all the clansmen in our clan, he is a demon, he is a great demon. At the same time, Fang Zheng opened his mouth and shouted, I will not go to your place, why should I listen to you? You want to lecture me again? I can decide my own life. I have my own goals, how can you understand my dreams? I can work hard myself, I can surpass you. It was just like he was a completely rebellious and out of control youth. Fang Zheng heard his own yells and lost all hope. Fang Yuan sighed, he said to the people in Immortal Crane sect, during this period of time, my good-for-nothing brother has caused you trouble. No trouble at all. Immortal Crane sect's members waved their hands in dismissal quickly. Fang Yuan nodded, he said, I will bring Fang Zheng with me and educate him personally. I have talked to your sect leader regarding this matter already, you just need to go back and inform him. Fang Yuan was spouting nonsense, he did not even know what the sect leader looked like. The two elders let go of their last bits of hesitation. In order for Immortal Crane's sect to maintain its reputation, Fang Yuan's matter had always been covered in lies. Right now, Fang Yuan was using these lies to trick the members of Immortal Crane sect. Fang Yuan carried Fang Zheng and left. The surrounding Gu masters felt a peculiar feeling when they saw this, but since Immortal Crane's sect was saying nothing, why would they interfere? Furthermore, the target was the renowned refinement path expert Fang Yuan. There were Gu masters of demon-expelling sect who were worried. They went over to ask. Elder Yen Tang smiled as he said, "There's no issue, Lord Fang Yuan and Elder Fang Zheng are brothers. Right now, the elder brother is teaching his younger brother." Demon-expelling sect was convinced and left. Immortal Crane sect's gang watched as Fang Yuan left. Many disciples gazed towards Fang Zheng with a look of envy. Someone sighed, even though Lord Fang Yuan speaks in a cold tone, he is really concerned about his one and only precious brother. That's right, it is such a rare opportunity to receive the teachings of a refinement path grandmaster. You know, after Fang Zheng accepted the sect mission last time, he came back and became a rank 5 elder. Now that he is brought away by his brother, would he come back as a refinement path grandmaster? No way. That is too exaggerated. Even so, the guidance of such an expert is incredibly precious, he has lots to gain from it. Sigh, why don't I have a brother like this? A disciple said the sentence that everyone was thinking about. If at this moment, they knew that Fang Yuan had captured Fang Zheng as a backup plan for his possession, what wondrous expressions would they show? Pi up. Fang Yuan threw Fang Zheng on the ground. Fang Zheng struggled to get up, he screamed internally, "Fang Yuan, you vile demon, what do you want with me? You and Immortal Crane sect had made an agreement, you cannot kill me, an elder of Immortal Crane sect." Fang Yuan laughed heartily, "I am not going to kill you, why are you so agitated, oh dear brother, just wait here obediently and quietly." Fang Zheng showed fear on his face, he cried out from within, "Fang Yuan is not my master, Lord Sky Crane, how can he hear my inner thoughts?" Fang Yuan smiled arrogantly, looking at Fang Zheng who was at his feet, he said, "Your so-called master is only a soul now. Even if he were to be alive, he was only a rank 5 Gu master in his prime." Saying this, Fang Yuan grabbed with a hand and plundered all of the mortal Gu on Fang Zheng's body. The spirit incubating fleet trembled weakly, this was the fierce resistance of Lord Sky Crane. But how could he succeed? If this was back on Qing Mao Mountain, 100 Fang Yuans would not be Lord Sky Crane's match. But now, Fang Yuan was completely different, he was a rank 6 Gu immortal. Lord Sky Crane had even become merely a soul. "Fang Yuan, even if you do not kill us, capturing us violates the alliance agreement, you will face fierce backlash from breaking it. I urge you to let us go, as a Grand Gu immortal, how can you take interest in us mortals? Are you not afraid that doing this would ruin your relationship with Immortal Crane sect? Don't think Immortal Crane sect cannot subdue you. The foundation of the 10 great ancient sects is beyond your imagination." Lord Sky Crane screamed in the spirit incubating flea, he knew that Fang Yuan could hear him. Fang Yuan raised his head and laughed, "Ha ha ha, Lord Sky Crane, I need to thank you. If you did not attack Qing Mao Mountain, I would not have gotten to this level today through various opportunities. What can Immortal Crane sect do even if I capture you too? Since you know many secrets, you should know that the 10 great ancient sects are restraining each other, everything is based on benefits and self-interest. What do you think is more important, the one and only Guts Gu, or the two of you?" Lord Sky Crane was speechless. A cold light shined in Fang Yuan's eyes, he mobilized countless Gu worms as he formed a soul path killer move at once, "Give me information about everything you know, Soul Search." 2 hours later, Fang Yuan walked out of this underground prison. Behind him, the entrance shut tightly. Fang Yuan's red eyes were shining with light as he muttered, "Lord Sky Crane, first Gen Guyu, blood path true inheritance. Through soul-searching, he had learned all about Lord Sky Crane and First Gen Gu Yu's enmity. He even learned many of Immortal Crane's sex secrets. This Lord Sky Crane is a capable subordinate of He Feng Yang. If I capture him, will He Feng Yang come and ask for him? This is slightly troublesome. He actually did not want to use possession and wanted to protect Feng Zheng. This Lord Sky Crane holds on to his beliefs resolutely. Towards this, Feng Yuan praised without holding back. Even though he was a demonic overlord, he could appreciate and admire such an act of sacrificing oneself for another person, looking at it from a neutral perspective. The same kind of rice raises many different people. People in their lives all have their own goals and motivations. Towards these kinds of people with different value systems, Feng Yuan could accept and appreciate their existence. If he was not so open-minded, he would not have his current achievements. Judging from this, old Lord Ken Yang must have gotten the possession technique from Dong Fong Chang Fan and brought it back to Immortal Crane sect. Lord Sky Crane's memories were not very helpful to Feng Yuan. He was only a Mortal Gu master, he did not know any deep secrets of Immortal Crane sect. Feng Yuan could make little use of them. As for Feng Zheng, Feng Yuan did not let him off, he searched his soul too. Feng Yuan intended to keep his brother in captivity for a long time. If one day, he had no other choice, Feng Yuan would have to use this last resort and possess Feng Zheng, regaining his living status. But this way, he would lose his second aperture, all of the strength path Dao marks on him would be gone, he would need to undergo immortal ascension again. The loss was huge. Second aperture Immortal Gu was created using countless precious immortal materials, among which was Lifespan Gu. One could say that in the short term, Feng Yuan could not refine second aperture Immortal Gu. Lifespan Gu were hard to find, even if Feng Yuan could find them, with his current situation, he might use it directly to raise his lifespan. If possible, I would rather not possess Feng Zheng. But if my identity gets exposed and I do not manage to revive, I would need to use possession. My current target is the Refinement Path Convention. If I get into the top 6, I would be able to benefit from the infallible inheritance and get a chance to refine Gu with assured success. The infallible inheritance was a Refinement Path inheritance. What did being named infallible mean? It meant no failure in Gu refinement. Once he got into the top 6 places, he would be transported into a hidden blessed land. Feng Yuan planned to refine the Immortal Gu change form after this. This was a rank 6 transformation path Immortal Gu. Once he had it, Feng Yuan's vaguely familiar face would be elevated to another level, it would not be such a weak version of only concealing his regional aura. As for the Immortal Gu recipe of change form Immortal Gu, Feng Yuan already had it. This was all thanks to Xianxia Land Spirit. Long ago, when Feng Yuan first obtained Wisdom Gu, he had made a deal with Xianxia Land Spirit to complete Immortal Gu recipes for him. Feng Yuan profited from this and not only got out of his financial troubles, he even obtained a large number of Immortal Gu recipes. And this change form Immortal Gu recipe was one of them. As for the immortal materials to refine change form Immortal Gu, Feng Yuan was almost finished in preparing them. F0 Lo Nu. Hapters at nov/el/bin/.com. He bought half of the immortal materials from Northern Plains Auction. For the other half, Feng Yuan asked He Lu Lan to connect to Treasure Yellow Heaven using her blessed land. Feng Yuan used his remaining immortal materials to sell or trade, and after many transactions, he obtained most of the ones he needed. The last remaining portion was filled by the immortal material rewards from winning the 8th round by Feng Yuan. In the subsequent rounds, Feng Yuan went on the offensive and used his rebirth advantage to defeat all of the tough foes in advance. At once, Feng Yuan's reputation was soaring, forces of all sizes, and countless Gu immortals were focusing their gazes on him. Other people were progressing normally, staying in their own territories and advancing safely. Only Fang Yuan was an exception, moving about and challenging different people, but he won every single round. Chapter 844, Contest Between Two Fangs. Central Continent Refinement Path Convention, 12th Round. The competition was at its most crucial moment. The entire stage's focus was on two people. One was wearing a black robe, his body was strong and muscular, he wore a mask as he manipulated the flame in front of him. It was Fang Yuan. The other was wearing a plain white robe, his hair was white as snow and he had a tattoo on his forehead. It was Fang Huai. This is a contest between two fangs. Fang Huai is amazing, he used 3 refinement path killer moves and reduced the lead. Even so, Fang Yuan still has the advantage. Sigh, he is too amazing, he probably is the best in quick thinking in this competition. This time, the moment the Gu refinement started, he took the lead by a huge margin. There are still uncertainties. Both Fang Huai and Fang Yuan have one chance left in their hands. If they use it, they can remove a portion of immortal materials from the other party. Be it on the stage or below it, audiences were discussing among themselves enthusiastically. By now, all of the other Gu masters in this round had been eliminated, only Fang Huai and Fang Yuan were left. Fang Yuan's gaze was calm as he focused on controlling the fire in front of him. Fang Huai. He even had the time to turn around and look at Fang Huai on his left, observing his opponent. Fang Huai was a Gu immortal as well, he placed 3rd in Fang Yuan's previous life. He was a wood path Gu immortal. In the entire competition, this round's task was the most unfavorable for him. Fang Yuan used this opportunity to challenge and attempt to get rid of him in advance. But Fang Huai had gone all out in the middle to later stage, using 3 refinement path killer moves. Among them was a refinement path immortal killer move. He pulled his distance closer to Fang Yuan in an instant. It caused the result of this Gu refinement to become uncertain again. Worthy of someone who achieved 3rd place in my previous life, he is so hard to deal with, Fang Yuan's expression changed suddenly. The flame in front of him flickered, the blue peacock's head that had halfway been melted suddenly turned into ash and fell onto the ground. This? Fang Yuan's expression did not change, but his heart sank. Oh no, I happened to hit the chance of failure. He reacted quickly, turning around and grabbing at his right side, towards the final blue peacock there. But just as he killed the blue peacock and was about to throw its head towards the fire, Fang Huai spoke, I am using my chance to remove the Gu refinement material, blue peacock, from Fang Yuan. The elder hosting the competition immediately responded, approved. The moment he said that, the blue peacock beside Fang Yuan vanished and was taken away. The crowd gasped. Each person was given 2 live blue peacocks. Fang Yuan wanted to use a peacock's head to refine Gu and failed once. Right now, his only remaining blue peacock was taken away. Beautiful, a beautiful choice. Fang Huai picked his timing really well. Fang Yuan is in trouble. Indeed, Fang Yuan was at the last few steps, but after losing the crucial materials, he can only change the Gu recipe and take a huge detour towards the finish line. Looking at Fang Huai, he was not far behind Fang Yuan originally. Right now, he should be able to catch up and eliminate Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan is going to be eliminated. Noticing this point, the crowd was in a commotion. Recently, Fang Yuan went ahead and challenged many Gu refinement experts. His power was ingrained in them. The outside world had greatly raised their evaluation towards his strength. Most people thought that Fang Yuan had reached the attainment of a refinement path grandmaster. A small number of people even felt that the ability Fang Yuan displayed had exceeded the level of a refinement path grandmaster. They thought he had reached refinement path quasi-great grandmaster attainment. Not mentioning Refinement Path Grandmaster, the evaluation of him being at Quasi-Great Grandmaster in Refinement Path was too absurdly high. Out of the Refinement Path attainment levels of Ordinary, Master, Grandmaster, Great Grandmaster, and Supreme Grandmaster, only 3 people had reached the highest level in history. They were the 3 olds of Refinement Path. Their names were Old Eccentric Tian Nan, Old Immortal Kong Ju, and Long Hair Ancestor. But even Quasi-Great Grandmasters were very rare. Among the Refinement Path Gu Masters publicly known in Northern Plains, there were only 4 at that level or higher. They were Yao Huang, Murong Shuexiang, Lady Wan Shou, and Lady Miao Li. These were the 4 highest experts of Refinement Path in Northern Plains. In terms of Refinement Path attainment, it was impossible for Fang Yuan to be on the same level as them. But it was not strange that people had such thoughts. The capability that Fang Yuan displayed was simply too great. He knew all of the questions in advance. This allowed him to stay far ahead of those at second place in every round. When one walks along a river's banks, how can they not wet their shoes? This time, Fang Yuan struck and wanted to eliminate Fang Huai, but he caused harm to himself instead. Ha ha ha. Some people were gloating. That's right, he is too arrogant. I couldn't stand him since long ago. Well done, Fang Huai. This Fang Huai is too despicable. Lord Fang Yuan, you have to hang on. Immortal Crane sect disciples, who were watching, shouted to cheer on Fang Yuan. After Fang Yuan captured Fang Zheng, Immortal Crane sect did not make a response. It seemed like they acknowledged this matter. Fang Yuan, I win. Fang Huai spoke with a clear smile. He was very confident. It was as if he had already grasped victory in his hands. Is that so? Fang Yuan sneered. He grabbed with his hand and the headless peacock corpse flew towards him. There were 2 live blue peacocks among the Gu refinement materials. Fang Yuan killed one of them and took the head. In the end, he failed and the second peacock got taken away. Right now, the corpse that he had was left behind from the first. Fang Yuan opened his fist as a gush of thick blood-colored fog burst out from his hand. In a few breaths' time, the fog covered the headless corpse entirely. Bystanders could not see what was going on. This is an evil blood refinement art again. Humph, this is not the first time Fang Yuan has used blood refinement techniques. Why is such a person an elder of Immortal Crane sect? One of the 10 great ancient sects, Immortal Crane sect, is also starting to fall from grace. Many Gu masters exclaimed after seeing this. Some people even shouted, why is such a person not on the Demon Judgment Board? Fang Yuan used blood refinement techniques time and time again in public. Immortal Crane sect was facing strong public criticism. What do you know? Blood refinement is just blood refinement, it is only a technique. If used in the hands of righteousness, it is righteous. When used in the hands of evil, it is evil. It all depends on oneself. An Immortal Crane sect disciple was indignant. He rebuked loudly. But the elder that brought them scolded him loudly, quiet, do not spout nonsense. This disciple could only lower his head and sit down quietly and resentfully. In just a while, the blood-colored fog faded, and the headless peacock corpse shrunk by 20%. But a blue peacock head had appeared instead. This is a blood path Gu refinement killer move. It is so amazing, able to collect corpses and transform the material. This kind of material conversion can be done in other paths too, but isn't his rate of conversion too fast? Everyone's gazes were fixed on this. Fang Yuan tossed this peacock head into the fire. As the fire burned, the peacock head started to melt, the molten head fusing into the incomplete Gu that was in the fire. A moment later, the bird head melted and fused into the incomplete Gu fully. Fang Yuan went to the next step. It is as good as over. Seeing this, some people sighed. That's right, the last few steps have no risks. Without any mishaps, Fang Yuan will be the winner. The failure earlier was just an unexpected surprise, it had a low probability and will likely never happen again. Sigh, to think that Feng Huai could not stop Feng Yuan either. Just as everyone was sighing, Feng Huai laughed loudly inwardly. This is the way, you think you've won, huh? I took away your blue peacock, the objective to waste your time has been achieved. With my final refinement path killer move, I can surpass you and become the winner of this round. Feng Yuan, I need to thank you, you approached me personally. Once I defeat you, it would be like I defeated everyone that you defeated. Ha ha ha, this is great. But just at this moment, Feng Yuan spoke, I want to use a chance and remove one of my opponent's materials. The hosting elder immediately replied, please speak. Feng Huai was slightly shocked but he soon smiled coldly to himself, thinking, remove it, remove whatever you want. Feng Yuan took a look at Feng Huai as his gaze was calm as water, I will remove the Gu refinement material, wild bull eyeball. Feng Huai's cold smile froze. Get latest. Uval ch. Ters on n. M. The hosting elder was stunned too. The audience was confused, didn't Feng Huai already use the crucial material, wild bull eyeball, and fuse it into his incomplete Gu? Feng Yuan wanted to take away a Gu refinement material that had already been used, this was not allowed by the rules. But Feng Yuan was insistent on it, he said to Feng Huai, are you not handing over the wild bull eyeball that you are secretly hiding? Are you trying to break the rules of the competition? Feng Huai's face showed extreme disbelief. He hid the wild bull eyeball using his unique technique, Feng Yuan actually sensed it. Wild bull eyeball was an important Gu refinement material, Feng Huai had long ago during the refinement made preparations for it and the refinement path killer move that would bring him victory relied on it. Without the wild bull eyeball, Feng Huai would not have the necessary components, how could he defeat Feng Yuan? But if he did not take it out, he could not hide it from anyone else anyway. Even if he could, if Feng Yuan raised an objection, the refinement path convention would undergo a thorough search, Feng Huai's reputation would be ruined. Thus, Feng Huai had to take it out regardless of his intentions. Under everyone's shocked gazes, he gritted his teeth as he took out the wild bull eyeball from the fire. Here. He smashed the wild bull eyeball on the ground in rage, he scattered the Gu refinement flame as he walked away. This was the same as admitting his defeat. The crowd was silent before bursting into a commotion. Feng Yuan ignored these voices, he refined the Gu worms in his hands unhurriedly until he obtained success. I finally won, this way, there should be no problem in getting top 6. Feng Yuan was bathed in everyone's shock, admiration, praise, and envy, but he had no expression as he let out a breath of cloudy air. Thankfully, I had my previous life's memories, I knew about Feng Huai's trump card, otherwise, he might have won. He looked like he had an easy time, but he actually faced great pressure internally. He was only a refinement path quasi-grandmaster, even with the advantage of rebirth, it was very difficult to eliminate these competitors. The case of Firesmith Dragon Chief was only an exception. Though Feng Yuan managed to beat these people, it was not like what the outside world was saying, that he had an easy time, or he had huge superiority. Chapter 845, Failure Has Value. Central Continent, Heavenly Court. The sky was clear and bright. Countless exquisite halls made of white jade emitted translucent light. A rank 8 Gu immortal, heaven overseeing Tower Lord, slowly pushed open the large door of the discussion hall. He walked into the hall while leaning on a walking cane. In an instant, the wills of over 20 Gu immortals inside the hall turned towards him. Heaven overseeing Tower Lord, you have worked hard for the last 100 years. After completing this segment of Fixing Fate Gu, please take a good rest. Heavenly Court needs a senior expert like you. There aren't any unexpected situations in this refinement path convention, right? The Gu Immortals' will started talking, breaking the silence. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord opened his cloudy eyes and looked around, before fixing his gaze on a will seated at a high position. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord spoke, Lian Jiusheng, you should awaken. The current refinement path convention is reaching its end, we still need some preparations for the recovery of fate. Lian Jiusheng's will nodded as he slowly stood up. He then spoke, to restore fate, it won't be possible with just myself and Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord, we still need the power of 2 rank 8s. I wonder which friends will lend a hand. My main body is suppressing the immemorial desolate beast group in Falling Heavenly River, I am unable to help. My physical body has rested for long enough, but my soul is researching a rank 9 immortal Gu recipe and is at the crucial moment. Let me help, maybe this time, I can find several portions of profound eerie wind in the underground depths. The wills communicated for a while, finally 2 wills decided to wake up. It's decided then. Lian Jiusheng's will nodded towards Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord, before soaring to the sky. Following him were other 2 wills. These 3 wills flew into the sky, towards the entrance leading outside, before vanishing from everyone's sight. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord turned around to leave, the door to the discussion hall slowly closed behind him. 3 days later. Central Continent, Hairy Foot Mountain. 4 figures suddenly appeared in the air above Hairy Foot Mountain. They completely concealed their rank 8 auras as they looked down at the mountain below. It was the 4 Gu Immortals from Heavenly Court. Hairy Foot Mountain. The white-haired man with a young appearance, Lian Jiusheng, sighed, unknowingly, another 100 years have passed in Central Continent. Let's start quickly. I am pressed for time during this period of awakening, I still have many things to do. Bai Tian, who had red eyebrows and green pupils, urged. Alright, let me start this off. Bai Shui was the only female immortal among the 4. She stretched out her hands, instantly, white fog started rising slowly in the surroundings. Immediately afterwards, Bai Tian opened his eyes, emitting 2 bright pillars of light that shot straight at Hairy Foot Mountain. Hairy Foot Mountain looked ordinary, it was small and lacked resources, even the surrounding small to middle-sized forces did not want to occupy it. However, right now, it looked mystical as it shined under the immortal killer move of Bai Tian. Space fluctuated intensely, creating countless ripples. The entirety of Hairy Foot Mountain shook slightly. Bai Tian's attacking immortal killer move had terrifying might, but was not the least bit effective right now. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord was the 3rd to make a move, after which was Lian Jiusheng at the end. 4 rank 8 Gu Immortals were working together, but it was still far from enough. The Gu Immortals already had an estimate, thus they continued to undertake a 2nd round of attacks, a 3rd round. Finally, at the 6th round, Lian Jiusheng cried out and dealt the crucial blow, he triggered a qualitative change, producing an effect. Hairy Foot Mountain disappeared from its spot, and a blessed land opened up in front of the 4 Gu Immortals. This is infallible blessed land, which holds the infallible inheritance. Lian Jiusheng sighed as he spoke. Bai Tian looked several times, speaking with a smile, there are more mortal failure Gu than the previous time, it seems the scale of the refinement path convention is becoming bigger and bigger. Bai Shui took out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat on her forehead, every time, we have to spend so much energy to open this place. Lian Jiusheng, can't you completely take down this blessed land? It is difficult, you are also aware that the owner of this blessed land is a refinement path great expert who made things difficult for Renzu. Lian Jiusheng sighed. Heaven overseeing Tower Lord nodded. Heavenly Court has made moves against this blessed land for thousands of years, but even until now, we could only take out 30 success Dao marks. Every time the infallible inheritance accumulates to the limit, it will have 36 success Dao marks. We have taken away 30, which leaves behind 6 Dao marks for those participants of the Refinement Path Convention, and even if we want to seize these, we can't. Lian Jiuxing added, "This blessed land is extremely special, it is perfectly enclosed and has no entrances at all. It is not that we cannot break open this blessed land, but if we forcibly cause mayhem, it will be hard to reproduce the wonders of this blessed land. Under this restraint, we can only proceed this way. To capture this blessed land, we not only need Refinement Path Gu immortals but also Rule Path great experts. Unfortunately, whether it be Refinement Path or Rule Path, there are extremely few who can cultivate to rank 8. The four were silent for a while. Heaven overseeing Tower Lord spoke. Fortunately, after restoring Fate Gu this time, it will be able to display 50% of its might. This is a qualitative change compared to before. From now on, we can search for even more Fate escapees, and restore the immortal Gu even faster. Speaking of which, how many escapees did you discover this time? Have you already dealt with them? Bai Chen Tian asked. Heaven overseeing Tower Lord replied, I discovered several. I cannot do anything against those in southern border and northern plains, but the 2 over here in central continent are already being dealt with. The Legends of Renzhou states, after Renzhou climbed the giant tree and walked out of ordinary abyss, he left behind his daughter, boundless forest samsara. Renzhou wanted to save her, but there was nothing he could do. He had become extraordinary, no longer able to enter ordinary abyss. Renzhou saw that pacing around this place was not going to help. He decided to set out again to find a way to rescue his eldest child, verdant great son, and his 4th child, boundless forest samsara. He started a new journey, beginning his road of life. On this day, he came across a hairy man. The hairy man stopped him, and was clearly happy. Renzhou, I had a tough time looking for you. Renzhou felt strange. I don't recognize you, why are you searching for me? The hairy man explained, it is like this, Renzhou. I am the leader of all the hairy men in the world, no hairy man can match my Gu refinement attainment. But I have recently encountered a problem when refining Gu. I want to refine success Gu, but I am unable to confirm if it is success or failure. Renzhou had wanted to continue traveling, but he had a thought well up in his mind. If the hairy man leader could truly refine success Gu and he borrowed this Gu, couldn't he rescue his eldest child or his 4th child? Therefore, Renzhou stopped and talked with the hairy man, but what do you need from me? The hairy man cautiously took out a Gu. This Gu resembled an ordinary rock and was covered with a thick layer of hair. The hairy man spoke, I do not dare to break it. If it is success Gu, that is fine. But if it is failure Gu, the moment I break it, I will completely lose my sense of self. But Renzhou, you are different. You are walking on a path that solely belongs to you, this means you have self-Gu. Since you have self-Gu, even if you break the failure Gu, you will not lose yourself. So I want to request you to appraise it. Renzhou was happy, so it is like that. I can help you, but if it is success Gu, please give it to me. I have an urgent need for it. The hairy man said, all right. That is no problem. Renzhou touched the Gu worm in front of him. He made a wish upon this Gu, please return my 4th child, boundless forest samsara, to my side. At the next moment, the Gu worm crumbled. Failure. The hairy man was dejected, it seems I refined a failure Gu. Courage Gu on Renzhou flew out, Renzhou, you are a failure. I am leaving you. Courage Gu left Renzhou and flew away. The hairy man, however, was invigorated, it doesn't matter, I can improve the Gu recipe. Renzu, wait a moment, I will refine it again. Renzu wanted to chase after Courage Gu and take it back, but he had an even greater desire for Success Gu to rescue his children. He thought for a moment, and decided to wait for the hairy man leader to refine the Gu. The hairy man refined the second Gu and gave it to Renzu for inspection. Renzu touched the Gu and made a wish, the Gu worm crumbled again. Another failure Gu. The hairy man sighed in dejection. Faith Gu on Renzu flew out, Renzu, you are a failure, you are not worthy of me. Faith Gu also left Renzu. Renzu stamped his foot, and wanted to chase after it, but the hairy man tugged him, don't be in a hurry, I have thought it through, this time I can definitely refine Success Gu. Faith Gu had already flown far away, Renzu realized he could not catch up to it, and said with a sigh, hairy man, refine it quickly, this is the last time I am trusting you. The hairy man's third Gu worm was still the failure Gu. Strength Gu also flew out, Renzu, you are a failure, you are unworthy of possessing me. Strength Gu flew away, Renzu felt bitter as he knew chasing after it would not give any result, so he could only gaze as Strength Gu flew far away. However, right at this time, Self Gu in his heart suddenly flew out and bit Strength Gu. Strength Gu shrieked and flew even faster as a piece of it was bitten away. It soon disappeared like a streak of smoke. Renzu and the hairy man watched with stupefied expressions. Self Gu leisurely flew back, and said proudly to Renzu, any failure has its value. Renzu, I went through repeated failures and absorbed them to become stronger. Just now, I took a bite of Strength Gu, from now on, you will have your own strength. I can still become stronger, I can devour any Gu worms to possess all their strength. Renzu was shocked. The hairy man leader slapped his thigh, shouting, I know how to refine Success Gu, it is through failures. The more failures there are, the closer I will be to success. I understand now. He shouted happily as he rushed away, leaving Renzu behind. According to the research of the Heavenly Court Gu Immortals, this infallible blessed land was the possession of the hairy man leader. Hairy Foot Mountain was the place where the hairy man leader had once resided. After his death, the hairy man leader left behind an inheritance. It was to gather other people's failures and refine them into mortal failure Gu. As the mortal Gu increased in numbers, they would then condense into Success Dao marks. After Heavenly Court discovered this, they captured the blessed land and used it as the foundation to develop and urge the Central Continent Refinement Path Convention to help the infallible inheritance quickly accumulate mortal failure Gu. They will then use the gathered Success Dao marks to restore Fate Gu. This was the origin of it all. Chapter 846, Persuading Fong Zheng. Central Continent, Hu Immortal Blessed Land. In Dang Hun Palace, Fong Yuan showed his true form, his 8-armed immortal zombie body seated on his bed, and his eyes shut. In his immortal aperture, there was an intense battle of wills. Fong Yuan, you will die a terrible death. Mo Yao's will screamed in anger, but the next moment, Fong Yuan's star will pounced at her. Two wills mixed together, they went into dangerous combat. Soon, Fong Yuan's star will shrunk at a visible pace, even though Mo Yao's fake will also suffered losses, her losses were much lower than those of Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan did not mind it, he only observed the battle. He did not use many wisdom path killer moves, like previously, to help his star will fight. When Fong Yuan's star will was about to lose, Fong Yuan smiled as he sent a lump of star will into the battle of wills. Soon, Fong Yuan's star will suffered great losses again, and he sent in a third batch. Mo Yao's will did not have a source to draw replenishment from, but Fong Yuan did. He sent in batches of star will until he finally got Mo Yao's will to an extremely weak state. Fang Yuan withdrew his star will from the battlefield, he activated multiple killer moves and immobilized Mo Yao's fake will again. He next nourished it and let her recover slowly so that he could search again next time. Mo Yao's fake will was scattered into a lump by Fang Yuan. She did not even have the energy to curse at him or maintain a human-shaped form. The information of greatest value in this fake will of Mo Yao's was Red Lotus Demon Venerable's inheritance clues. He had already obtained them. The only things left were memories of her Gu refinement experiences. During the time he participated in the Refinement Path Convention, Fang Yuan did not forget to search the Gu refinement memories that Mo Yao's will had. In addition, he wanted to train himself in how to engage in battles of wills. Initially, without using wisdom path methods, Fang Yuan's star will would be losing and was not the match of Mo Yao's fake will at all. Mo Yao was indeed a former fairy of Spirit Affinity House, with the identity of a female Inkman. She was loved by Sword Immortal Bo Qing, becoming his only wife. Even among all the different generations of fairies in Spirit Affinity House, Mo Yao was one of the most accomplished ones. Even though this old hag mainly cultivated refinement path, her wisdom path attainment surpassed Fang Yuan greatly. In order to train himself, Fang Yuan purposely engaged in pure battles of wills with Mo Yao's will. His losses in battle were at an astounding rate of 1 to 100. Fang Yuan would lose 100 portions in exchange for 1 portion lost by Mo Yao's will. But later, the more they fought, the more experience Fang Yuan gained. Most importantly, he had the guidance of Dong Fang Chang Fan's wisdom path inheritance. He grew rapidly as he engaged in the battles more frequently. From an almost blank state, he grew to a level that could fight Mo Yao's fake will head-on. His improvements were huge. From 1 to 100, his loss ratio went to 1 to 4. That was to say, 4 portions of Fang Yuan's star will could defeat Mo Yao's fake will. Mo Yao's fake will was extremely indignant in regards to Fang Yuan stealing her experiences and using her as a practice dummy, treating her like a stepping stone, but because she was restricted, she could not do anything despite her anger. Star will entered his mind, and Fang Yuan inspected the memories of Mo Yao that the star will stole. Soon after, he opened his eyes, a smile appeared on his face. Interesting. This memory was not related to Gu refinement experiences. Instead, the information was from back when Mo Yao and Sword Immortal Bo Qing had been traveling together. In Central Continent's Truyang mountain range, they killed a group of desolate beasts and were about to take their loot when they found a hibiscus stalactite in the cave. Hibiscus stalactites were a rare rank 7 immortal material. This stalactite produced a drop of stone heart liquid every year. This liquid was even more precious, it was a rank 8 immortal material. Bo Qing was going to cut the stalactite, but Mo Yao stopped him. If he cut the stalactite, he would only get a rank 7 immortal material, but if he left it alone, many years later, there would be a large amount of stone heart liquid. The value of a rank 8 immortal material was much greater than a rank 7 immortal material. Bo Qing listened to Mo Yao's suggestion and set up many exquisite Gu formation arrangements to perfectly conceal this cave. So many years have passed, if this cave is still not found, the amount of rank 8 immortal material, stone heart liquid, inside would be huge. Even if I cannot use it, I can collect it. In the future, I can sell it inside Treasure Yellow Heaven, or trade it to obtain immortal materials that I want. A rank 8 immortal material is something coveted by many Gu immortals. Fang Yuan was overjoyed, but also gained an even deeper understanding about Mo Yao's fake will. Discover new Tories at N. ve/lbin.c/o. This fake will of Mo Yao's has many techniques. She purposely concealed this precious memory. I only found out after searching most of her memories. Such a technique is not recorded even in Dong Fang Chang Fan's wisdom path inheritance. I have to get it from her. Fang Yuan urged himself internally. But for now, he could not continue ravaging Mo Yao. Her fake will needed to recover, otherwise, she would not be able to take further damage. Fang Yuan did not go to Truyang mountain range to take the stone heart liquid. He got up and opened the prison entrance, arriving in front of his little brother, Fang Zheng. Fang Zheng was in a strange state. He had his eyes shut, lying on the ground, interchanging between ruthless and relaxed expressions from time to time. He would scream and even move his limbs around randomly. It was like he was in a nightmare. This was obviously the work of Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan waved his hand and the method was ended. Fang Zheng was breathing roughly and covered in sweat. After a while, he got up and asked, "What did you do to me?" He looked at Fang Yuan with a gaze filled with hatred. Fang Yuan chuckled. He said plainly, "My good brother, what I showed you were the true events that happened. This is the combination of my memories and Lord Sky Crane's memories. You should know now that the disaster on Qin Mao Mountain was not caused by me, it was because of your so-called master, Lord Sky Crane. If he did not come and try to take the blood path true inheritance, we might still be living happily on Qin Mao Mountain as a family." Fang Zheng was stunned. At this moment, he forgot how to speak, or rather, he did not know what to say. Fang Yuan spoke the truth. Even though the clansmen were killed by Fang Yuan, he was forced to do so in order to survive. If not for Lord Sky Crane's attempt to take the Blood Sea true inheritance, Qin Mao Mountain's 3 tribes would not have been destroyed. Of course, Lord Sky Crane did not hide the origin of this matter from Fang Zheng, he only explained it in a more pleasant manner that was in his favor. Fang Zheng had considered this problem before, but every time he thought about it, he would subconsciously avoid the issue. But now, Fang Yuan had searched Lord Sky Crane's soul and played his memories directly in Fang Zheng's mind. This was simply placing the cruel truth and facts in front of Fang Zheng. He could not avoid them even if he wanted to. He he he. Fang Yuan's laughter could be heard in the air. "My beloved brother, don't tell me you had never considered that your master, Lord Sky Crane, had unquestionable responsibility towards the destruction of Qin Mao Mountain. You even acknowledged him as your master. You are truly a traitor." Fang Yuan's words were very sharp, they pierced into Fang Zheng's inner depths. "Shut up!" Fang Zheng screamed. He had never felt so angry in his life. "Shut up, stop talking. You demon, you were the one who murdered the clan, you killed uncle and aunt, it was you, you murderer. Without master's help, I would have died long ago. I will not allow you to slander my master." "Oh." Fang Yuan's smile curled up mockingly. He chuckled. "Didn't Lord Sky Crane save you in order to make use of you and find me? He. Earlier, Immortal Crane's sect tried to use you to attack my immortal blessed land. Didn't you almost die then? My stupid brother, they are taking advantage of you, and you are actually a willing party. Stop talking, shut up, shut up." Fang Zheng covered his ears, he shut his eyes, his face was flashing with rage and panic. Fang Yuan's expression turned cold, his tone was icy. "My weak-willed brother, you do not even have the courage to face the truth. Even if you have the power of a rank 5 Gu master right now, deep inside, you are still just a child who has not matured. But you are my blood kin, as your elder brother, I will give you a chance. Join me, I will train you and make you strong, you will grow up and mature." "No, no." Fang Zheng opened his eyes, they were bloodshot as he stared at Fang Yuan with rage. "You murderer. You want me to work myself to death for you? Forget about it. Even if Immortal Crane's sect is making use of me, I do not hate them. Because they were the ones who nurtured me. And you. You are the one who killed uncle and aunt, you killed our entire clan. I hate you, I will never forgive you. If given a chance, I will kill you personally and take revenge." Fang Yuan squinted his eyes as he looked at Fang Zheng quietly. He laughed instead of being angry. He, it seems you've learned a lot in Immortal Crane's sect. Seeing your desire to kill me, I am looking forward to it. Saying this, Fang Yuan turned around and left the cell. These days, Fang Yuan had placed most of his effort on the refinement path convention. But he did not forget to use Wisdom Gu and Star Thought Gu to undergo deductions. Deducing vaguely familiar face to this point had expended all of Fang Yuan's capabilities. Thus, Fang Yuan went to deduce the killer move, Myriad Self, and successfully fused pulling Water Immortal Gu into it. At this point, Myriad Self had 3 strength path cores. After that, Fang Yuan modified the recipe of Air Sac Gu. The mass production of the Gu now had more steps that were simpler to complete. The danger of the refinement had been reduced by 30%. When he modified Memory Thought Gu, Star Thought Gu, and Malicious Thought Gu, he encountered a wall. Fang Yuan's wisdom path cultivation had just started. His wisdom path attainment level was too low. It greatly slowed down his deduction speed of these recipes. These last few days, Fang Yuan placed his attention on the Immortal Gu recipe of Blood Deity. He slowly completed the Blood Deity recipe, finding out some details. Even if he refined Blood Deity, he would need a blood relation to use it. Killing a blood relation would allow him to obtain a blood deity from the power of Blood Deity Immortal Gu. If this relative did not resist and contributed their life willingly, then the blood deity produced would be closely connected to the Gu Immortal. It could be manipulated with ease. In contrast, if the relative carried hatred and anger, the blood deity might cause a backlash to the owner. This was the reason why Fang Yuan was trying to persuade Fang Zheng. If he had any other way to remove his immortal zombie status, he would use Fang Zheng for this instead. All in all, Fang Zheng had caused much trouble to Fang Yuan in the past. Fang Yuan was not going to let him off. Chapter 847, Blood Path Demon's Might. This matter was troublesome. There were actually many unconventional methods to make someone loyal. The Gu Master world never lacked such methods. For instance, Enslavement Path was especially proficient in dealing with this issue. But to turn Fang Zheng into a blood deity, these methods could not be used. A blood deity was equivalent to another life form. During the moment the transformation succeeds, all the methods used on Fang Zheng previously would lose their effects. Fang Zheng's original thoughts and intentions would influence the blood deity. The power of a blood deity could certainly be foreseen. Because the lightning deities derived from blood deities were extremely powerful. Vicious Lightning Fiend was only a rank 6 Gu immortal, but by relying on 3 lightning deities, he made challenges everywhere, and his reputation kept on rising as even rank 7 Gu immortals lost to him. A blood deity was similar. It had battle strength on the level of a Gu immortal. Adding 1 would mean a battle of 2 against 1. Adding 2 would mean 3 against 1. If the number increased further, it would become a group fighting on one side. Fang Yuan was only an immortal zombie right now. His cultivation could not advance. Using numbers to make up for it was also only a temporary solution. All dreams, desires and ambitions were built on the premise of survival. Once one died, all would turn to dust. Blood deities could greatly raise Fang Yuan's battle strength, and Fang Yuan was also a blood path grandmaster. If one day, something went wrong, where Fang Yuan was hunted down and the situation turned dire, he could only choose to once again cultivate blood path, his old specialty. Follow EW Stories at n/VELB/in.com. Time Path, Wisdom Path, Blood Path. Fang Yuan was cautious and prepared for everything. He would never look down on making excessive preparations. However, the current situation was still not too bad. Converting Fang Zheng to my side cannot be done quickly. I need to take it slowly. No matter how much Immortal Crane's sect has brainwashed him, with my methods, as long as I put in effort, I will definitely reach my goal one day. At present, the trade of both Daoist Gu and regretful spiders has been established. Now I only have to wait for the transaction token to use Western Desert's Shao clan as a starting point, to openly enter Western Desert's market in the businesses of dragonfish and eerie fire dragon pythons. When that happens, I will be earning large amounts of wealth every day. My main priority for now is still refining change form Immortal Gu. I have already eliminated most of the tough opponents, my placement in the top 6 is basically guaranteed. The only variable is Feng Jin Huang. Feng Yuan thought of the current situation and his plan. Because of her defeat to Feng Yuan, Feng Jin Huang learned the true usage of Dream Wing's Immortal Gu in advance. By exploring dream realms, her refinement path attainment had already reached quasi-grandmaster level. Exploring dream realms was truly the best shortcut to raise one's attainment level. Feng Jin Huang had Immortal Gu with her, and also had her mother, Fairy Bai Qing, who took care of her wholeheartedly. The speed at which her refinement path attainment increased was simply absurd. Feng Yuan had to make accumulations over 500 years to become a quasi-grandmaster in refinement path. Meanwhile, Feng Jin Huang had caught up to him in such a short time period. During the 5 regions chaotic war in Feng Yuan's previous life, battle raged everywhere fiercely, forming an extraordinary era where countless champions emerged from the lower levels. In regards to this era, other than the 5 regions chaotic war and the turbulence in social order, dream realms were one of the main causes of it. Dream realms might be filled with dangers, but if one could explore them successfully, their foundation would be raised directly. This was an extremely great fortuitous encounter, allowing many minor characters to make astounding accomplishments. Often, what champions lacked was only an opportunity to develop. Know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Feng Yuan had been secretly gathering much information on Feng Jin Huang's participation in the Refinement Path Convention. At first, her methods were rather clumsy, but after gaining some experience, she rapidly grew up into a strong opponent for Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan was familiar with the tests in the competition, thus his ability was overrated by the outside world. However, the duel with Feng Jin Huang was an unknown variable, it had not occurred in his previous life and thus his rebirth advantage could not be shown. I must pay attention to Feng Jin Huang. If I don't deal with this properly, I might even lose out on the infallible inheritance. But after passing this hurdle, I can use this precious opportunity to refine change form Immortal Gu. Feng Yuan knew many inside details regarding the infallible inheritance. The top 6 winners would be rewarded with 6 success Dao marks, which would be imprinted on the Gu master's body on the spot. Outsiders had no chance to seize them. However, even though it was named infallible, it was not a definite success. The success Dao mark could only eliminate the natural probability of failure during the process of refining Gu. There was always a possibility of failure while refining Gu. Even if there was no error from the person during the whole process, the refinement could still fail randomly. This was the failure probability. For instance, during the second round of the Refinement Path Convention at Flying Frost Sect, Feng Yuan refined 10 Ghost Fire Gu. He did not make any mistake, but a Ghost Fire Gu had exploded for no reason. There was also the time during the battle with Feng Huai when the blue peacock's head had inexplicably turned into ash when merging with the incomplete Gu. During the whole process, there was no error with Feng Yuan's control over the fire. Later, when he succeeded in refining the Gu, he had used the same method, without any changes. There were various opinions regarding this failure probability. The most popular reasoning was that it was because of laws. Gu were the essence of heaven and earth. Why is it that they possess all sorts of mysterious powers? It was because they contained the natural laws of heaven and earth. Mortal Gu contained meager traces of laws, while Immortal Gu contained fragments. Gu refinement was a process of combining these traces of laws into one, forming larger law traces. It was also reverse refining a larger law trace into smaller ones. Because it involved laws, there would always be situations where these laws would have subtle differences, and during the refinement, instead of merging together like the person wished, they would collide and conflict, ending up with the result of failure. Fang Yuan also accepted this reasoning and acknowledged it was sensible. The smaller the law traces, the fewer the characteristics, the more easy it was to combine them. This was why the lower the rank of the mortal Gu, the easier they were to refine. The bigger the traces, the more differences in characteristics they would have from other traces, which made them more difficult to combine. At the level of immortal Gu, the law fragments had individual characteristics that were unique to themselves. So, all immortal Gu was unique, thus refining immortal Gu was extremely difficult to succeed. The success Dao marks in the infallible inheritance could remove the failure probability. One success Dao mark could at most be used in rank 6 immortal Gu. To succeed in refining rank 7 and rank 8, the success Dao marks required would not be just one. However, during the refinement process, if Fang Yuan made a major mistake in his technique, the immortal Gu refinement could fail. Even if there are no errors in the methods, and the failure probability was completely eliminated by the success Dao mark, but if the immortal Gu being refined already existed, then at the final juncture, the Gu refinement would still fail. Immortal Gu were unique, since the immortal Gu already existed, it signified the unique characteristic law fragment had already condensed. Thinking of forming another of the same law fragment was impossible. As for the change form immortal Gu, Fang Yuan was thinking of refining, he had not yet heard of any Gu immortal possessing it. Naturally, Fang Yuan based this on his previous life's memories, the information he gathered in this life, as well as using wisdom path methods to make deductions. Based on all this, the probability for change form immortal Gu to already be in existence was very low. If it truly existed and the Gu refinement failed in the end, Fang Yuan could not do anything other than to admit his own bad luck. This was the harshness of Gu refinement, and at the same time, the beauty of it. Central Continent, Truyang Mountain Range. Vicious lightning fiend slowly landed down on top of a mountain peak and gazed at the opposite mountain peak, where there was already a rank 7 demonic path Gu immortal. Vicious lightning fiend, you have challenged me, but if you can't put up a decent wager, I won't accept it. The demonic path rank 7 Gu immortal spoke. He looked middle-aged and vigorous, he was wearing tight-fitting martial arts attire with a red cape draping behind. His surname was Dan and his given name was Qiao. He was known as Blazing Demonic Immortal, his main cultivation was Fire Path and his vicious reputation had spread far and wide. Ha ha ha. Vicious Lightning Fiend laughed heartily. Blazing Demonic Immortal, you indeed belong to the demonic path, speaking of benefits in all things. You are a strong opponent, so I specially prepared 1,500 kilograms of hibiscus branches. What? 1,500 kilograms of hibiscus branches. Dan Xiao was moved. The wager Vicious Lightning Fiend put forward directly spoke to his deepest desires. Blazing Demonic Immortal Dan Xiao snorted, it seems you made many preparations for this, even finding out my urgent need for hibiscus branches to refine immortal Gu. Alright, if I lose, I will give you 600 strands of 2-9 Thunder Heavenly Qi. The agreement is set. Both were people who came straight to point and were resolute. After setting the challenge agreement, they began the fight straight away. World Decimating Fire Crows. Blazing Demonic Immortal Dan Xiao waved his hand, untold numbers of fire crows flew, shrouding the sky and earth as they raised a boundless inferno. Lightning Dragon Purgatory. Vicious Lightning Fiend laughed strangely as he pushed forward with his hands open, emitting endless lightning bolts. Thunderbolts and lightning gathered into hundreds of lightning dragons that charged forward madly. Everywhere they passed, the landscape collapsed, displaying their terrifying might. Lightning dragons and fire crows clashed, causing the entirety of their surroundings to be filled with the red blaze of fire and the deep blue radiance of lightning. Boom boom boom. The explosions were unceasing. Blazing demonic immortal and vicious lightning fiend appeared like mirages, as they moved extremely fast, clashing viciously several times in the midst of the hell of fire and lightning. They did not make any probing moves, they just used powerful skills in succession. Since vicious lightning fiend challenged blazing demonic immortal to increase his reputation, he had already gathered the necessary information. And since Dan Xiao had agreed to vicious lightning fiend's challenge, he also had made sufficient preparations and had enough understanding of vicious lightning fiend, and also the confidence of attaining victory. After a while, blazing demonic immortal used 3 different immortal killer moves in a row, leaving vicious lightning fiend unable to make ground. Dan Xiao could be said to be the strongest opponent vicious lightning fiend had challenged since he exited seclusion. Regardless of cultivation level, immortal essence or the Dao marks on their bodies, Dan Xiao surpassed vicious lightning fiend. Vicious lightning fiend was losing, but he was not panicking. This situation was within his expectations. In fact, he had also been at a disadvantage when challenging those rank 7 Gu immortals previously. After all, his cultivation was only rank 6, this was a common situation when challenging higher ranked experts. Hahaha, this fire is truly interesting. Vicious lightning fiend suddenly raised his head and shouted, his eyes flashing sharply. His body shook and 3 lightning figures slowly flew out of his immortal aperture, attacking blazing demonic immortal. Lightning deities. Lightning deities that contained lightning path Dao marks. The battle strength of 3 Gu immortals. Blazing demonic immortal quickly retreated, while vicious lightning fiend took advantage of this to counterattack and turn the situation around. The battle raged on heatedly for an hour. It concerned enormous wagers and reputation, neither of them were willing to back down easily. The intense immortal essence consumption made both sides feel great loss. Dan Xiao did not continue enduring this, and suddenly attacked ruthlessly. He had been planning this attack well in advance, vicious lightning fiend could not dodge and had to face it head-on. Boom! A huge explosion occurred, vicious lightning fiend was sent flying while spitting out blood. Admit your defeat, great fire demon true body. Dan Xiao suddenly turned into a giant blazing demon and chased with extreme speed. In a flash, the fire demon had closed in upon vicious lightning fiend. No, I won't lose. Lightning deity, detonate. In the moment of crisis, vicious lightning fiend's ferocious nature was stimulated as he boldly self-detonated a lightning deity. Rumble. The lightning deity's self-detonation created a boundless clamor that could shake mountains. Vicious lightning fiend and blazing demonic immortal Dan Xiao were both in a heavily injured state, they were exhausted and their battle strengths had greatly reduced. Interesting, hand over both of your lives. Suddenly, a blood-colored light flew over, forming a battlefield killer move that enveloped both the wounded parties. Song Zi Xing. Dan Xiao shouted in fear, recognizing this killer move. Chapter 848 Ambushing Song Zi Xing. Blood, blood, blood. The sky had blood-colored clouds, the ground was now beneath a sea of blood, all around in the air, there was blood-colored light. This was Song Zi Xing's personal creation, his signature battlefield killer move, Blood Tu Su. It was uniquely distinctive in Central Continent. Song Zi Xing had a strongly vengeful mindset. Previously, during an exploration, many gains were seized away by Gu immortals from Tu Su City. Thus, after creating the battlefield killer move, he set out to take revenge. He turned the entire city into dust, and killed the 2 Gu immortals in the city. His revenge succeeded, Song Zi Xing felt gratified. He wrote some words with blood in the sky above the rubble of Tu Su City. It took a while, but revenge came after a year. today I arrived and used blood too soon. The name of the perpetrator is Song Zixing. From that day onwards, his battlefield killer move was named Blood Too Soon. Thus, seeing this scene, Blazing Demonic Immortal recognized that it was Song Zixing's attack. As expected, a moment later, a figure descended from the sky. Song Zixing was clothed in a blood-red robe, his body was long and sharp like a spear. His face was pale and he had a sharp nose, his gaze was ruthless like that of an eagle or vulture. As he descended, the blood sea went into turbulence as the blood-colored clouds rumbled like dragons or pythons. The surrounding blood-colored light flew into the sky, it was a dazzling sight. Song Zixing seemed like the ruler of the world, a demonic god of the sun and moon. Song Zixing, why are you here? Blazing Demonic Immortal Dan Xiao looked at Song Zixing as his face went pale, his expression was that of shock and anger, but also immense fear. Why can't I be here? Song Zixing turned around slightly to look at Dan Xiao, he smiled lightly as his gaze was filled with killing intent. Dan Xiao, back then when I lost to Favourite Gu, you attempted to take advantage of the situation and ambushed me, attacking me with an immortal killer move. I've intentionally left behind the scar that you inflicted on me all this time. I have been waiting to take revenge on you, but you hid inside Truyang mountain range, causing me to be unable to find you. But you dared to accept Vicious Lightning Fiend's challenge, thus I came today to settle the score with you. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Dan Xiao sighed as he decided to give in. Lord Song Zixing, I am willing to apologize to you. He was a grand rank 7 Gu immortal, but he lowered his head instead of fighting. Song Zixing had a vast and mighty demonic reputation, he was on par with Shirley and had incredible battle results. Back when he was in Myriad Dragon Dock, he was renowned in Central Continent. After that, he betrayed them and escaped, even though Myriad Dragon Dock pursued him and sent 8 Gu immortals in successive waves, he killed 4 of them, crippled 3 of them, and forced 1 to retreat. This result caused a commotion in Central Continent, Song Zixing left scot-free. Myriad Dragon Dock went into a downturn, its reputation was even lower than that of Immortal Crane sect. It became the worst among the 10 great ancient sections. Only until now, when Vicious Lightning Fiend came out of closed cultivation, did they start to regain their status. Of course, Song Zixing had experienced defeat as well. His most famous loss was against Favourite Gu. Favourite Gu only used 3 moves and Song Zixing was defeated completely, escaping frantically. But this loss did not tarnish Song Zixing's reputation. Because his opponent was Favourite Gu, and he could escape and live, this was something no one could look down on. In fact, practically all demonic path Gu immortals were skilled in escaping. Song Zixing was particularly skilled in this aspect. Apologize. Hearing Blazing Demonic Immortal's words, Song Zixing showed a mocking expression. If you had been like this and understood your position earlier, I would not have chased you until you hid inside Truyang mountain range. Lord, please speak, as long as I can obtain your forgiveness, I am willing to pay the price. Dan Xiao said melancholically. If you want to obtain my forgiveness, it is very simple, hand your life over to me. Song Zixing said nonchalantly. Dan Xiao lifted his head, his expression was pale as he spoke with grief and indignation. Song Zixing, are you really not letting me off? Let you off. He. This demonic path overlord raised his head and laughed. Song Zixing will always take revenge. When 2 Sioux cities Gu immortals took what was mine, I murdered the entire city and people inside. Back then, you ambushed me, it is already my greatest kindness that I am not torturing you before killing you. Are you still not satisfied? Today, you are doomed to die. Saying this, he turned around and looked at Vicious Lightning Fiend. Oh right, you are still here. Didn't you claim to want to challenge me? I am here now. He spoke mockingly, like a cat playing with its food. Vicious Lightning Fiend was trying to heal himself now. The explosion earlier had given him a wound that was not small. He was still using his methods, but he raised his head and said, Song Zi Xing, you were a Gu immortal from Myriad Dragon Dock. In terms of seniority, you are my senior. A challenge is definitely needed. But today, since you are here to seek revenge, I will not interfere. Let me go or I will self-detonate my lightning deities and force my way out. Hahaha, your immortal killer move, Lightning Deity, is indeed impressive and can create a strong enough force to break open my blood Tu Su. But so what? Can you escape? Think about it, can your escaping method surpass my blood rainbow flash in terms of speed? Song Zi Xing laughed arrogantly. It sounded like he was trash talking, but his words were actually attempting to decrease their fighting spirits. But at the next moment, Song Zi Xing's expression changed, his gaze towards Vicious Lightning Fiend turned grim as he shouted, something's wrong. With your personality, how can you back off at this moment? In terms of acting, Vicious Lightning Fiend was inferior to the demonic path Gu Immortal Dan Xiao. In Song Zi Xing's view, a flaw was found immediately. At once, Song Zi Xing's heart was pounding. The blood in his heart was surging and crashing into his blood vessels, attacking the inner walls of his heart. This was his immortal killer move, Heart-Blood Premonition. Even though it was a blood path technique, it could mimic wisdom path and deduce dangerous or favorable circumstances for Song Zi Xing. An intense feeling of danger assaulted Song Zi Xing's heart. This is a trap. Song Zi Xing growled. He wanted to leave. Lightning Lock. Lava Chain. At this moment, Vicious Lightning Fiend and Blazing Demonic Immortal Dan Xiao, who were fighting, joined forces and attacked Song Zi Xing together. Song Zi Xing sneered, the blood sea beneath his feet rose up, creating huge red waves that were imposing and grand. The huge blood waves blocked the lightning and lava. Meanwhile, Song Zi Xing turned into a bloody rainbow and vanished on the spot. Top. V. L updates on n/o/v/lb/in.com. This was an immortal killer move, Blood Rainbow Flash. It was extremely fast. He flew out of the battlefield killer move, Blood Tu Su, immediately. Song Zi Xing was very resolute. He discarded even the blood path immortal Gu that he used to construct the battlefield killer move. He flew out and tried to retreat. A few breaths later, the bloody rainbow had already flown an enormous distance. The bloody rainbow vanished. Song Zi Xing's figure appeared in the air. He looked down at the unchanging mountain below him as his expression turned ugly. Oh no, I'm in an illusion. His mind worked quickly. As the sense of danger intensified, he realized that this was a trap from his enemies. He quickly flew back and tried to regain control of the battlefield killer move, Blood Tu Su. But at this time, a total of 16 Gu immortals appeared, with incredible auras surging in the air. They attacked together. 16 immortal killer moves landed on Song Zi Xing. Boom boom boom. Dazzling light shined on the cruel or emotionless faces of every Gu immortal. After the light faded, Song Zi Xing could be seen to be in a pitiful state. His face was covered in soot, as his black robe was tattered. A layer of blood-red armor was around his body. As he looked around him in anger, this is Heavenly Lotus Sex Illusion Garden. What great handiwork, you even brought your immortal Gu house to deal with me. And the rest of you, did the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent join up? Song Zi Xing was furious but also perplexed. He was a demonic path Gu immortal, but he had been moving around and hiding without being too rampant. Recently, he did not commit any great crimes. Why were there so many people teaming up against him? But soon, Song Zi Xing understood. to be able to force all 10 great sects of Central Continent to work together, this must be an order from Heavenly Court. That's right, Song Zixing, you understand it yourself. Junior brother Vicious Lightning went around challenging people. It was the arrangement of a wisdom path Gu immortal, in order to lure you. Junior brother's lightning deity was derived from blood deity. You have been wanting this immortal Gu recipe, and with blazing demonic immortal being your enemy, you were finally attracted to this place. But you were too vigilant. You had been following behind Vicious Lightning Fiend and watched him go through more than 10 different challenges previously without striking. Only after Vicious Lightning Fiend self-detonated a lightning deity did you get baited successfully. He, you are so hard to catch. To make you show up, we in Ancient Soul Sect, Heaven's Envy Manor, and Spirit Butterfly Valley had 3 Wisdom Path Gu immortals collaborating to interfere with your immortal killer move, Heartblood Premonition. This prevented you from sensing the danger in advance. The 3 rank 7 Gu immortals who were leading the group spoke slowly one by one. The other 13 Gu immortals were all rank 6. At this point, some people could not control themselves anymore. They charged up. Song Zixing, you killed my elder brother and raped my sister-in-law. I will tear your skin and bones apart. Ah. Song Zixing, you will definitely die today. I will take revenge for Sun Clan's 730 people today. Song Zixing was an evildoer. He caused many tragedies. But those who had the strength to take revenge on him were few. Many Gu immortals who offended Song Zixing lived in fear. They were afraid that he might take revenge on them one day. Blood Dragon Song Zixing had a strong thirst for revenge, that was well known to everyone. Blazing Demonic Immortal was one of them. He was chased down by Song Zixing. He had to hide inside Truyang mountain range. But because Song Zixing was forcing him to his limits, this demonic path Gu immortal was willing to undergo such a realistic show with Vicious Lightning Fiend and the others. 8 rank 6 Gu immortals attacked Song Zixing. The Gu immortals from the 10 ancient sects of Central Continent remained in the air. They formed a tight encirclement. The Gu immortals who were currently fighting Song Zixing were lone cultivators. These people were contacted by the 10 ancient sects. They had deep hatred toward Song Zixing. Song Zixing's crimes were all targeted at small forces. He tried not to cause trouble with the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent. But he was a person who had successfully escaped fate. Killing him would help the healing of Fate Gu greatly. With Heavenly Court's orders, the 10 great ancient sects had to stop fighting between themselves and work together to kill Song Zixing. Song Zixing was attacked from all sides. He was in a disadvantage. Without any way to fight back, he could only choose to escape. His speed was very fast. The name of Blood Rainbow Flash was famous in Central Continent. His speed rose at once. The Central Continent lone cultivators were left in the dust behind him. Chapter 849, Successful Escape. Song Zixing, the day has come where you get what you deserve. Aren't you called the Blood Dragon? Don't run if you have guts. Blood Rainbow Flash was extremely fast and very nimble. The pursuing Gu immortals used killer moves to obstruct him, but there was little effect. The distance between them was growing. But the immortal Gu house, Illusion Garden, was set up already. They were not afraid that Song Zixing would escape. The scene became quite strange. A group of people were chasing after Song Zixing with immense hatred. Their killing intent was overflowing like fire, but they could not reach him. He is as slippery as an eel. The Gu immortals from Central Continent's 10 ancient sects did not chase him. They observed the situation and used some immortal killer moves from time to time. Song Zixing was still quite dangerous. His battle result in fighting the pursuers from Myriad Dragon Dock made people feel apprehension. That was why Central Continent's 10 ancient sects invited many lone cultivators. In their plan, these lone cultivators were cannon fodder. They were meant to probe Song Zixing's methods and waste immortal essence he had stored up. Without immortal essence, even if Song Zi Xing was a blood path Gu immortal, his battle strength would fall. This cannot go on. Song Zi Xing is only wholeheartedly escaping, we are unable to force out his trump cards. A while later, a central continent Gu immortal spoke. Many other people frowned, don't you find it strange? Song Zi Xing is called the Blood Dragon, his violent Blood Dragon bat has rank 7 battle strength, but he has not used it yet. All along until now, he has been escaping without truly attacking. What are you afraid of? Song Zi Xing is already trapped by the immortal Gu house, Illusion Garden. The biggest flaw of our ambush was the duration needed to set up Illusion Garden. Now that Song Zi Xing is already trapped, his demise is only a matter of time. We cannot be careless. Blood Path Gu immortals cannot be judged with common sense. Maybe he is searching around everywhere for a flaw. Newest. Rise at n/vel/b/i/n.co. Maybe he has powerful reinforcements. Therefore, stalling for time. While they were guessing, the voices of the 2 rank 7 Gu immortals from Heavenly Lotus sect resounded. Everyone, it is time to strike. Mobilizing the immortal Gu house is very taxing, we cannot drag this on for long. In truth, along with Vicious Lightning Fiend and Blazing Demonic Immortal Dan Xiao, a total of 20 Gu immortals had ambushed Song Zi Xing. Vicious Lightning Fiend and Blazing Demonic Immortal Dan Xiao were bait. The 2 rank 7 Gu immortals from Heavenly Lotus sect did not show up, they were controlling the immortal Gu house secretly. The remaining 16 Gu immortals showed up to fight Song Zi Xing. Mobilizing the immortal Gu house caused great expenditure to their immortal essence. Especially a complete immortal Gu house like Illusion Garden, it was far more taxing than using an incomplete immortal Gu house like Profound Ice House. Even rank 7 Gu immortals could not sustain it for long. The Gu immortals of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent were rushed, most of them entered the battle, only 3 rank 7 Gu immortals were overlooking the situation in case of any accidents. Song Zi Xing was still escaping, he did not fight back. I've heard of how fast Blood Rainbow Flash was long ago, now that I see it, it truly is amazing. It is even faster than my Cloud Shock Sail, it is also as fast as Purple Heaven Lightning Wings, a movement killer move that is in the top 10 even in Central Continent. Not only is it fast, it is agile, it can twist and turn around easily, it has all-around capability in terms of mobility. What a pity. The 3 rank 7 Gu immortals were evaluating. They felt some regret, an outstanding movement immortal killer move like Blood Rainbow Flash could not be obtained easily. If they could get it, they would be able to retreat at will, they would be able to save their own lives when escaping. But this was a blood path killer move, even if righteous path Gu immortals get it, they could not use it, unless they betrayed the righteous path and went into the demonic path. Back then, Song Zi Xing betrayed his sect and went to the demonic path. Other than conflicts with his sect, the main reason was that he could not resist the allure of blood path strength. As the Gu immortals from Central Continent's 10 sects joined in, Song Zi Xing's situation got worse. Their encirclement became tighter, everyone joined forces, even though Blood Rainbow Flash was fast, it had its limits. Eventually, he was trapped. Demons are meant to be slain, die. Kill Song Zi Xing. Eventually, they trapped Song Zi Xing in the center, many lone cultivator Gu immortals struck and attacked Song Zi Xing. They did not get close, they attacked with long-range methods, Song Zi Xing was making them feel wary by not fighting back. These lone cultivator Gu immortals were not idiots, they knew the reason why Central Continent's 10 great sects invited them to ambush Song Zi Xing. But they were willing to be cannon fodder, because they had intense hatred with Song Zi Xing, irreconcilable to the point that only one side could live. Gu immortals were still humans, they were afraid of dying. If not for Song Zi Xing's overbearing attitude, causing them to live in fear daily. They would not attempt this. From this, the advantage of vicious lightning fiends' lightning deities could be seen. Having the battle strength of Gu immortals and not fearing death, they could be produced in batches. This was terrifying. Thankfully, each lightning deity was formed by paying a huge price, and they needed a huge sum to be maintained. The Gu immortals were prepared. Their attacks landed on Song Zixing. He tried to dodge, but there was little space. He took a heavy beating. At once, he was blown to pieces, blood splattered everywhere. Oh no! This is not Song Zixing's real body. Seeing this, the immortals were stunned. They realized the truth. Be careful of Song Zixing's sneak attack. How did he conceal himself? My investigative killer move could not find him. Stay calm, we are inside the immortal Gu House illusion garden, he cannot escape. Search carefully. Gu immortals were all experienced people. They quickly calmed down. Even if Song Zixing wanted to attack them by surprise, he could not find a chance. The immortals displayed their abilities. They searched quickly but they made no progress. Their gazes quickly focused on Blood Tu Su. Someone realized, oh no. Song Zixing never came out. His real body has always been inside the battlefield killer move. Vicious lightning fiend and blazing demonic immortal Dan Xiao are in danger. Since the beginning, Song Zixing's battlefield killer move, Blood Tu Su, had been encased like a red egg, floating in the air. The immortals did not destroy this battlefield killer move, firstly because their attentions were attracted to Song Zixing. They were also unwilling to help vicious lightning fiend. He had been challenging people everywhere, gaining huge reputation, as a person who was quite unreasonable. All of the 10 sects of Central Continent, including Myriad Dragon Doc, wanted to suppress him for a bit. In addition, destroying Blood Tu Su would also expend a lot of immortal essence. Thus, Blood Tu Su was accidentally forgotten by the immortals. The fundamental problem now was that because they were strong, they underestimated the enemy. The immortals realized they were fooled by Song Zixing. Overcome with rage and embarrassment, they charged towards Blood Tu Su. Blood Tu Su was not an immortal Gu house, it was only a battlefield killer move. Under the intense attacks, it trembled intensely. 3 breaths later, Song Zixing removed the battlefield killer move. Blood Tu Su collapsed. Song Zixing laughed loudly as he flew out in a bloody rainbow. Blazing demonic immortal Dan Xiao was dead. His corpse was held in Song Zixing's hands. Meanwhile, vicious lightning fiend was heavily injured, falling into a coma. Only one lightning deity was left. It was very weak and was guarding around vicious lightning fiend. If they were slightly later, vicious lightning fiend might have been killed by Song Zixing. But Song Zixing was also heavily injured. His left arm was completely amputated up to his shoulder. The battlefield killer move, Blood Tu Su, isolated itself from the world, becoming an independent area. Furthermore, Song Zixing had special methods and prevented vicious lightning fiend or Dan Xiao from seeking help from the outside world. Song Zixing was able to kill blazing demonic immortal Dan Xiao and send vicious lightning fiend into a coma when surrounded by everyone. This was a huge humiliation. The Gu immortals were furious, anger was rising in them. If news spread, how would they face anyone? Kill Song Zixing. Blood Dragon deserves death, he should not live in this world. Removing evil for the people of the world, upholding justice. At once, Gu immortals attacked. All sorts of immortal killer moves and battlefield killer moves were sent towards Song Zixing. Song Zixing laughed arrogantly. Blood Rainbow Flash was used again and he evaded most of the immortal killer moves. Next, he raised blazing demonic immortal's corpse and said, "Thanks for the gift, now, I'll return it to you." Detonate. Blood red light burst into the sky, as a shocking explosion occurred. The immortals were sent flying, but Song Zixing was completely unharmed at the center of the explosion. The blood path Dao marks in his body were shining brightly, protecting him. Illusion Garden shook heavily, a crack opened from his intense attack. Blood rainbow flash. In the blink of an eye, Song Zixing vanished. He escaped the immortal Gu house and flew beyond the vision of the Gu immortals. Chase him, he was hit by my immortal killer move, I can sense him. How can a grand immortal Gu house become damaged to the point of cracking? The immortals growled as they chased him. The two rank 7 Gu immortals from Heavenly Lotus sect retrieved their immortal Gu house and joined in. Their expressions were ugly. It is that violent blood dragon bat. Song Zixing arranged for it to be outside. It crashed into Illusion Garden and self-detonated. Together with Song Zixing's internal attack, a crack was formed. The violent blood dragon bat was an ancient desolate beast. Its battle strength was equivalent to a rank 7 Gu immortal. The force of its self-detonation was quite extraordinary. Furthermore, Illusion Garden was only maintained by 2 Gu immortals. They could not react to the explosion in time, allowing Song Zixing to forcefully create hope during that desperate situation. The immortals would not give up like this. They chased him with gritted teeth. A battle of pursuit appeared on Truyang mountain range. The pursuers had huge numbers, a total of 17 Gu immortals. 1 Gu immortal from Myriad Dragon Dock was staying behind to take care of Vicious Lightning Fiend. But now at this point, the battle was no longer controlled by the righteous path Gu immortals. They had fallen into Song Zixing's tempo. Song Zixing was a demonic cultivator, and was most skilled in escaping. I cannot go outside immediately. This Truyang mountain range is the best hiding spot. I lost my violent blood dragon bat. After I escape, I will definitely settle the score. Song Zixing's expression was twisted. This loss was making him feel loss. He swore inwardly, as he used blood rainbow flash to turn and land on a mountain. Inside Truyang mountain range, there were countless fierce beasts. In the chase, large numbers of desolate beasts and even ancient desolate beasts were disturbed. They created a lot of problems for the pursuers behind Song Zixing. Song Zixing was well aware, the more chaotic the situation, the easier he could find a chance to slip away to freedom. 3 days later, late at night. The moon was hanging in the sky. A dim blood-red light moved along the ground as it flew out of Truyang mountain range. Clank! Suddenly, a metallic sound was heard, as a golden bell phantom covered the blood-red light. An injured Gu immortal appeared. He shouted, Song Zixing, where do you think you are going? Just as he said that, Song Zixing, who was inside the golden bell, vanished. In his place was a palm and a small section of his forearm. Oh no, this is a fake, the true body is there. The Gu immortal's expression changed. He turned around and flew towards another direction. Long afterwards, a figure appeared quietly from afar. It was Fang Yuan. He was wearing a mask. His body was covered in a thin layer of smoke as he walked towards the golden bell phantom silently. Looking at the arm in the bell, he showed an expression of joy. Chapter 850, Blood Demon Body Separation, Breaking the Bell for the Arm. Immortal Killer Move Blood Demon Body Separation. Fang Yuan looked at the severed arm in the golden bell phantom as he muttered. According to the, after he betrayed Myriad Dragon Dock and defeated the pursuers, he hit his tracks and cultivated with all his effort, developing rapidly. He had great foresight. He understood his own situation, thus he devised this killer move. During the current Central Continent Refinement Path Convention, the 10 great sects ambushed and attempted to kill Song Zixing, but he escaped in the end. This was also the first time blood demon body separation was displayed, shocking the entirety of Central Continent. The reason why Song Zixing could escape was attributed to this. This immortal killer move could create a clone in a short period of time. The clone had great speed that could rival Blood Rainbow Flash. Furthermore, it was very realistic and deceptive. Even investigative immortal killer moves could not see a flaw in it. However, this method had a huge price. It needed a body part of the person to create the clone. They also had to expend a huge amount of immortal essence as the energy source to maintain the existence of the clone. The more immortal essence consumed, the longer it could exist. There were many methods for Gu immortals to regrow their limbs, but blood demon body separation's cost was not only superficially losing the limb. In truth, it expended the body's blood path Dao marks. Precisely because of these blood path Dao marks, blood demon body separation could achieve such a wondrous effect. If it did not pay a price in blood path Dao marks, the clone body from blood demon body separation would not be able to pass off as the real person. When ordinary Gu immortals were hurt, for example, if Fang Yuan lost half his body, the strength path Dao marks on him would be taken in by his immortal aperture. When his body recovered, the strength path Dao marks would go back to his body. When a Gu immortal dies, all of the Dao marks on them would go to the immortal aperture, for example, Hu immortal blessed land. If Song Zixing successfully used blood demon body separation, even if he regrew his limb later, the new arm would be blank, all of the blood path Dao marks on it would have been used up. Undeniably, the loss of Dao marks was an incredible cost to Gu immortals. Because Dao marks were hard to obtain, they could often only be accumulated after going through heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities. Each heavenly tribulation or earthly calamity would require the Gu immortal to risk their lives. Once their immortal aperture was damaged, all of the resources that they own would be destroyed. Thus, the cost of obtaining Dao marks was very high for Gu immortals. This also showed the value of each strength immortal Gu. But Fang Yuan could be certain that Song Zixing did not have an immortal Gu like each strength. The blood path Dao marks that he lost would have to be regained from calamities and tribulations. The Dao marks on a Gu immortal could amplify the power of immortal Gu and immortal killer moves. This amplification was quite terrifying. Rank 8s could have an amplification with a multiplier of hundreds or even thousands. That was also why rank 7 Gu immortals could rarely beat rank 8 Gu immortals. Da had said that Song Zixing escaped and survived. Eventually, he was only left with a head and half a chest. The rest of his body was discarded to use blood demon body separation. After this battle, the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent lost face. Not only did they not reach their goal, they were toyed with by Song Zixing and suffered casualties. Song Zixing also suffered huge losses. He lost an ancient desolate beast violent blood dragon bat, and most of the blood path Dao marks on his body were destroyed. After this battle, he did not publicly appear for 200 years. For a period of time, there was no information on him. People suspected that he was dead. But when he reappeared in the world, not only did his battle strength recover fully, he even nurtured 3 violent blood dragon bats. Fang Yuan had a clear understanding of the ambush of Song Zixing. He looked at the severed arm with a heated gaze. This severed arm came from Song Zixing, it was a part of his body. If Fang Yuan obtained it, he could use his Gu refinement techniques to create Song Zixing's head. And Song Zixing's head was the only requirement to be acknowledged as star form blessed land's owner. Land spirits were straightforward existences. As long as Fang Yuan could hand over Song Zixing's head to it, he would become the owner of star form blessed land. Star form land spirit would not care if Song Zixing was alive. It was just an obsession formed by fusing with the blessed land's heavenly power. Fang Yuan could become its owner in this way. Even if one day, Song Zixing were to appear alive and well in front of the land spirit would not betray Fang Yuan. Because Fang Yuan had already met the requirements that the land spirit had. But at this time, it was troublesome for Fang Yuan to collect this arm. Breaking the bell was not hard, but once the golden bell phantom was broken, the arm would explode and turn into a mist of blood. Fang Yuan needed to use other methods to deal with the severed arm, otherwise his plan would fail. In fact, Fang Yuan had quite a deep impression of this arm. His current location was at the periphery of Truyang mountain range, near Yuanyang City. Song Zixing's severed arm was contained by an immortal killer move. The Gu immortal who used the move was busy chasing Song Zixing and left this severed arm behind. As time passed, this golden bell would disappear after one night, and the severed arm would explode into blood mist. By then, the blood mist would cover up to a few hundred li of area, causing huge issues to the surrounding living beings and creating disasters. Hundreds of years later, Yuanyang City would send out missions to recruit geniuses and explore the blood mist, killing the blood beasts that grew inside, preventing the blood beasts from forming into a beast tide and attacking Yuanyang City. In his previous life, Fang Yuan lived in Yuanyang City for a period in time after reaching Central Continent. In order to survive, he accepted the missions to kill blood beasts. From this perspective, Fang Yuan was doing a good deed by taking Song Zixing's severed arm in advance. Fang Yuan observed it for a while before carefully using some mortal killer moves to probe it. The golden bell phantom did not move, it was indeed an immortal killer move. Fang Yuan surrounded the golden bell phantom and continued to circle around it, observing it from all angles. He tried to find an appropriate method. The golden bell was not still, it was rotating slowly, the severed arm was floating inside, blood-colored light could be seen flickering inside. Fang Yuan went around it over a dozen times, before having a plan. He was about to strike when his ears twitched. He heard some noises. Explosion, did you guys hear it? Yes, saw a mystical light. Treasure, maybe it is. Random voices could be heard at intervals, they were getting closer to him. Fang Yuan immediately realized that surrounding Gu masters were drawn over by the commotion. This location was at the periphery of Truyang mountain range. Desolate beasts did not normally come here, and because this was near Yuanyang City, many Gu masters were active here. The immortal killer move from the Gu immortal earlier caused golden light to fly into the sky. It earned a lot of attention and the Gu masters came here to investigate it. A bunch of insects. Fang Yuan sneered, a cruel light flashed in his eyes. At his will, strength path phantoms flew out of his immortal aperture. Soon, there were thousands of strength path phantoms surrounding Fang Yuan. Each time Fang Yuan went out, he would store a large number of strength path phantom in his immortal aperture. That was because using Myriad Self to create the strength path phantom army required some time. Kill. Fang Yuan instructed, as thousands of strength path phantoms attacked, rushing down and blending into the dark night. What are those things? Ah! Gather into a formation, quickly gather into a formation. Run! Cries, screams, and furious shouts were heard. A battle of life and death ensued. In just a few breaths' time, the Gu masters were routed. Fang Yuan's phantom army attacked mercilessly, countless Gu masters died. The bloody smell spread to Fang Yuan's location very quickly. Fang Yuan's arms were behind his back. He looked at the golden bell phantom, his expression calm under his mask. Even though he had a method already, he did not strike yet. Haste makes waste. Even though the strength path phantoms were powerful, they could not use investigative methods. They also could not boost their speed. Some Gu masters might not give up, and try to conceal themselves and sneak in. But these people would all die without an intact corpse. Because Fang Yuan was here, he used dozens of investigative killer moves without pause, putting layers and layers of arrangements here. No movements could evade his search. Unlimited primeval essence had an advantage. that was the casual use of mortal killer moves. One could use mortal killer moves almost endlessly. And because of the accumulations of Fang Yuan's previous life, he knew better mortal killer moves that surpassed this era. Fang Yuan waited for a while. As expected, 3 or 4 Gu masters sneaked in. Fang Yuan manipulated the strength path phantoms and according to his manipulation, charged over to kill these Gu masters who were courting death. Impossible, how did they find me? Spare, please spare me. Ah! The Gu masters had nowhere to hide, they were all killed. After a while, the surroundings became quiet, the smell of blood became thicker as birds could no longer be heard near the trees, the place was completely silent and dead. Fang Yuan started to make his move. Myriad Self First Style, Giant Hand. A strength path giant hand appeared out of nowhere, grabbing the golden bell. The golden bell phantom restrained was what held inside, it had little defense on the outside. After adding in pulling mountain and pulling water, Fang Yuan's strength path giant hand had grown rapidly in strength. It only needed to grasp hard and the bell would break. But the thing was, how could he prevent the severed arm from exploding into a mist of blood after the bell was broken? Thankfully, Fang Yuan was not only a strength path grandmaster, but also a blood path grandmaster. Like Song Zixing, he knew many blood path methods. He had planned for this over a long time, he made ample preparations. Immediately, he started his arrangements and focused. Over 100 blood path killer moves were used in sequence, coordinating with each other. An even greater number of Gu formations were used on the outside, there were layers upon layers of them. After the arrangements were done, he observed again to make sure there were no flaws in his setup. He found that there were 2 errors and changed them, he then did a 3rd, 4th, and 5th check. This was an important matter, Fang Yuan had a lot of patience. In the end, when he struck, everything was under his control. The golden bell phantom broke, and the arm was going to detonate, but it was restrained and had layers of seals placed on it. Song Zixing was already extremely weak when he used this arm to activate blood demon body separation, he used less than 10 beads of immortal essence on it. That was also the reason why Fang Yuan could obtain this severed arm.